surunmilitan yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we're continuing our study of the Bhakti of the Srimad Bhagavatam for the Bhakti Vaibhava course, and we're on the 4th canto, and tonight we're looking at chapter number 23. Maharaj Prithu's going back home. All right, this will be the last chapter in this unit. So, we heard about Maharaj Prithu, first chapter 20, we had Lord Vishnu coming, giving instructions to Maharaj Prithu. Then chapter 21, we had Maharaj Prithu giving the instructions which he received from Lord Vishnu. He was giving them to the citizens. And then chapter 22, we had the 4 Kumaras come. And we heard the 4 Kumaras giving instructions to Maharaj Prithu. So now, here we are, chapter 23. And we're told Maharaj Prithu is at the last stage of his life. He saw himself getting old. So that great soul, king of the world, he prepares himself to retire, and he gave his wealth away. He gave pensions to people who needed it. And he dedicated his sons to the earth, considered the earth to be his daughter. And in this way the king, Maharaj Prithu, and his wife Archie, they went to the forest to perform austerities. In other words, they took the next order of life. They became vanaprasthas. So Prabhupada explains this is Maharaj Prithu's incarnation. He's a Shaktavesha avatar. He doesn't have to do these kind of things, but he does them because he wants to set an example for others. He wants that other people should see the good example. So he was exemplary as a householder, and now he's a vanaprastha, he's also renounced. He's also an exemplary. Everything he does is very perfect and according to the scriptural injunctions. So Prabhupada explains, he said, Maharaj Prithu retired alone and at the same time took his wife with him. So according to Vedic injunctions, you can take your wife with you and they're considered one unit. So the chaste wife will follow her husband. Many great kings went to the forest, they became vanaprasthas, they renounced the luxury and went to live in the forest, and their queens followed them. All right, we have the examples about Dhritarashtra went to the forest and Gandhari followed him. And you have the Pandavas, how they retired, and their queens like Draupadi and Subhadra, they followed them. So that's a chaste wife, that they will follow the husband. So Prabhupada said we should not remain at home until the time of death. He said we should separate from the family at a timely moment and prepare to go back to Godhead. And at the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, it is very difficult to retire from family life and at the same time remain at home. Of course, if you don't have children, it's not such a big problem. But when you have children, when you have other family members there, then it's a big problem. Anyway, Prithu Maharaj, he was a Shaktavesha avatar. He had come from Vaikuntha, and so he was sure to go back to Godhead. But he wants to show an example. And look at the example. He did these severe austerities. He followed all the regulations and lived in the forest. What did he eat living in the forest? Sometimes he would eat tree bark. Sometimes he would eat roots. Sometimes there would be some wild fruit or something growing. Just like Dhruva Maharaj, when he was in the forest, he'd spent the first month, he was eating some wild fruit. It said he would eat a fruit which is not really fit for humans. It would be eaten only by monkeys. But Dhruva Maharaj would eat it. So here is Maharaj Prithu, and he is also very austere, very renounced. When you go to the forest, you cannot expect to have everything you want. You give up the comforts and you accept the difficulties. So Prithu Maharaj, he followed all these difficulties, he accepted it. Sometimes he ate fruit, sometimes he ate dry leaves. And for some weeks he would drink only water. And then we're told finally he lived simply by breathing air. So we should understand this kind of renunciation is not possible for people like ourselves. We cannot possibly go to the forest and live like Prithu Maharaj is doing. To live on dry leaves and drinking a little water. We could do it for a few days, but Maharaj Prithu did it for weeks. He lived on nothing but air. Sometimes he ate some fruit from the tree. Anyway, he was not overeating. The principle is you have to control the eating. Too much eating is not good. Prabhupada explains, better than going to the forest is to live in the temple. He says to live in the temple is to live in Vaikuntha. It's transcendental to the material nature. So we don't need to go to the forest and artificially try to imitate someone like Prithu Maharaj. Rupa Goswami also had gone to live in Vrindavan, And people try to imitate, but they end up getting difficulties. They start to have problems. They get involved with the wrong people. So Prabhupada writes at the end of the purport of text number 5, it is not possible for Westerners to go to the forest and practice the severe austerities which were ideally practiced by Prithu Maharaj or Rupa Goswami. However, Westerners or anyone else can follow in the footsteps of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur by living in a temple, which is transcendental to residence in the forest, and to vow to accept Krishna Prasadam and nothing else. Follow the regulative principles and chant 16 rounds daily of the Hare Krishna mantra. In this way, one's spiritual life will never be disturbed. So, practical advice from Srila Prabhupada. We cannot try to imitate. We can follow, however, following in the footsteps of these great souls. We also have to recognize that at some point we're going to have to give up the body, and we have to prepare for that. So Prithu Maharaj was doing great austerities. In the summertime he would heat the body. Although it's so hot, he would heat the body. In the winter he would expose himself to rain in the rainy season. In the winter he would stand in water up to the neck. And of course he would just lay on the floor to sleep. And his wife would also do these kind of things. Although she was a queen, but she would just sleep on the floor, lay on the ground and sleep on the floor. So this kind of austerity, of course, this is not a great austerity, but this kind of detachment is necessary to help us to control the mind and senses. So Prithu Maharaj did all of these austerities for the satisfaction of Krishna. He had no other purpose. So in the Kali Yuga, we're recommended to chant the holy names of the Lord. In Kali Yuga, it's not possible to undergo severe austerities. We can only follow great personalities like Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya did Sankirtan. So chanting the holy name, that's the real purpose of yoga. That's very pleasing to Lord Krishna. Prithu Maharaj, he did his austerities long before Lord Krishna, but his purpose was still to please Krishna. And Prabhupada points out that worship of Krishna had been going on for a very long time. And he goes all the way back to Dhruva Maharaj. And Dhruva Maharaj had ruled the world for 36,000 years. And Dhruva Maharaj worshipped Krishna. And Prithu Maharaj also worshipped Krishna millions of years ago. So, worship of Krishna didn't just begin 5,000 years ago. It existed in Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga. Didn't just start with the Kali Yuga. Krishna appears in every millennium, not only in this millennium, but in every millennium. So worship of Krishna has been done all the time. That's an important point to understand. Prabhupada quotes Narottam Das Thakur, Ananda Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan, Sri Guru Vaishnavapade Majayaman. This Narottam Das Thakur is saying, for a transcendental, blissful life, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, worship the holy places like Vrindavan, and engage in the service of the Lord, and serve the spiritual master, and serve the Vaishnavas. So this is Krishna consciousness. You can see it. It's very, Prabhupada says, very safe and easy. We just have to do these things. Chant the holy name, worship the holy places, and serve the Lord and the Guru and the Vaishnavas. The spiritual masters representative of Krishna, the Vaishnavas also represent Krishna. So Prithu Maharaj was doing these great austerities. He became completely free of all desires. And he also practiced pranayama. He was controlling his breathing to help him to control his mind and senses. And this way he became free from all desires for fruitive activity. So pranayama, the purpose of pranayama is to stop the mind and senses from material activities. People think pranayama is to make the body strong and to make it fit so you can work harder. But the real purpose of pranayama is that we can detach ourselves from the material and control the mind and senses. Prabhupada calls it the nose-pressing yoga. Actually, the real way to advance in the Kali Yuga is by chanting the holy names. Prithu Maharaj's activities took place in Satya Yuga, right? He was ruling the world. He was the king for thousands of years. So it must have been Satya Yuga. Just like Dhruva Maharaj was also Satya Yuga. So people try to imitate, they try to do the yoga like what people did in Satya Yuga. It's not possible. No way they can they cannot do these things. Our pranayama, Prabhupada writes, as far as pranayama is concerned, chanting of the holy names and dancing in ecstasy are also considered pranayama. So, we're doing pranayama when we chant and dance. And we should worship Lord Vasudeva. By worshipping Lord Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, we can get free from all material desires. So the real meaning of pranayama is to strengthen the mind and senses so that we can use them in devotional service. And we can get this determination very easily by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. The more we take shelter of the holy name, then the more we will develop the determination to conquer over material desires and to control the mind and senses. So Maharaj Prithu followed the advice given to him by Sanat Kumar. Sanat Kumar had told him to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. In chapter 20 and 21, Lord Vishnu had told Maharaj Prithu, and Maharaj Prithu had told the citizens that they should work and they should follow Varnashram and offer the fruit of their work for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu. And in this way, they would perfect their life. And then in chapter 22, then the four Kumaras came. And the four Kumaras came, and they, of course, they're Jnana Yogis. But they didn't tell Prithu Maharaj to do Jnana Yoga. They told Prithu Maharaj that the goal of all yoga is devotion. The knowledge will lead to devotion, will lead to bhakti. And now, here in this chapter 23, we see Prithu Maharaj, he's doing Astanga Yoga, meditation and pranayama, and the goal of that is also devotion. So everything leads to devotion. Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, it all comes to devotion, to bhakti. So you can see in each of the chapters, these different processes had been told, and it was explained that they all culminate in bhakti yoga, in devotion. We have to get the devotion for Krishna. So Prabhupada explains, for a devotee there's no difference. Whether they live or they die, doesn't matter. They're serving Krishna now, and next life they'll go on and serve Krishna some other place. It may be in Vaikuntha. So that is the nature of devotional service, because they're fixed in devotion to Krishna. So sadhu majiva mamara. So for the devotee, it doesn't matter if he lives or if he dies. If he lives, he'll serve Krishna. If he dies, he'll go on and serve Krishna some other place. Okay, we're going up to text number 10. Said Maharaj Prithu engaged completely in devotional service. Rules and regulations strictly according to principles, 24 hours a day. Thus his love and devotion unto the Supreme Lord Krishna developed and became unflinching and fixed. Fixed, right? That's what's required. We have to fix ourselves in devotional service. We should not deviate, go here and there. We should keep the mind fixed on the goal. So this is the nature of pure devotional service. And Prabhupada explains how the impersonalists, they have material desires. They simply want to merge into Krishna's existence. But the pure devotee has no desires like that. The pure devotee just simply wants service. Wherever he goes, he simply wants service. So Maharaj Prithu could constantly think of Krishna. So he became totally detached and he had perfect knowledge. So he was completely free from the material energy. So Prabhupada explains how, just like a queen, when she gives an audience, many maidservants follow her. So the maidservants of devotional service are mentioned. What are the maidservants of devotional service? Material opulence, liberation, mystic powers. So karmis are very attached to material opulence. Jnanis, they want to get liberation from the material world, and the yogis want yoga siddhis. And so if we do devotional service, you get all of these things. All of these things follow for one who is a devotee. Personal attendants, they're like personal attendants. They remain standing, just waiting for orders. So a devotee, he doesn't worry about any kind of, he has no material desire, doesn't want anything. But Krishna arranges to give everything. If he needs anything, Krishna arranges. And they get, Prabhupada in the purport, he quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and gives a nice example about how everything follows for one who is a devotee. He gives the example of one has strong digestive power. After eating, he automatically lights a fire within his stomach to digest everything. He does not need to take medicine to aid his digestion. Right? If you have a good digestion, you don't need to take some medicine to help you digest. You just need to eat. And as soon as you eat, the fire in your stomach will digest the food. So similarly, the same way there's a fire of devotional service. And that fire of devotional service, it doesn't need to act separately to get perfect knowledge or detachment. If we have that fire of devotion, then there will be natural knowledge of the spiritual world and knowledge of the Lord's energies. And there will also be detachment from material attractions. It will come about automatically with devotional service. Where there is devotion, there will be also jnana and vairagya. These things follow, just like maidservants of the queen. So for Maharaj Prithu, because he was fixed in devotional service, he had all of these things. He had perfect knowledge and he had detachment from the material world. But for the impersonalists, it's different. The impersonalists, because they have material desires, the impersonalists, because they want something, they have some material, they have some desire, they want liberation or something. So they may go up to the Brahman, but because they've not got proper knowledge, they will come back to the material world. Because they didn't have the proper knowledge about the Lord and His material creation. So at the end of the purport, text 11, Prabhupada writes, although Prithu Maharaj was eternally a pure devotee of the Lord, he nonetheless adopted the process of devotional service in order to teach the people in general the proper process for executing the duties of life and ultimately returning home back to Godhead. So Prithu Maharaj is showing perfectly how to leave the body. Just like Srila Prabhupada, he showed us how to live in the world, and then he showed us how to die. Right? You've seen that movie, The Final Lesson? Srila Prabhupada's final days in Vrindavan. Prabhupada was simply preparing himself to give up the body, hearing about Krishna, sometimes hearing, sometimes dictating, sometimes giving instruction. Mainly Prabhupada wanted kirtan. He liked the devotees to come and do kirtan for him. I had the opportunity, it was in Bombay, in Juhu. Prabhupada was staying in his rooms upstairs there, and he wanted kirtan. So devotees were assigned to go to Prabhupada's room. And he just wanted to hear the holy name. You know, at that time we didn't have all these chanting devices like what we have now. You know, we have chanting boxes, Prabhupada chanting box and everything. So in those days, we didn't have all that technology. But Prabhupada wanted us to come in there and chant. So I was with another devotee. He was an American brahmachari. And we got a chance to go to sit in Prabhupada's room and chant for him for an hour. And so what happened was, one devotee I was with, we were chanting, but then suddenly he changed the mantra. We were chanting Hare Krishna, but then he started to chant Govinda Jai Jai. And Prabhupada immediately opened his eyes and he said, just chant Hare Krishna. So that was an instruction which came from Prabhupada. I had the opportunity to be there in Prabhupada's room at the time. Prabhupada was telling us what he wanted. He just wanted to hear Hare Krishna mantra. He didn't want to hear anything else. So here, Prithu Maharaj, he's also in trance. He's not interested in the Jnana Yoga system. He's not interested in any other thing. You know, the Jnanis, they become perfect, they hear knowledge, they discuss it, they go through philosophy and argue back and forth, come to some conclusion. The conclusion of Jnana is also Bhakti. And meditation, meditating on some of the meditation, ultimately you come to know there's only Krishna. So Dhruva Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj was completely fixed in Krishna consciousness by his own mental absorption. Prabhupada said, perfection of life depends on one's inclination to hear about Krishna. So this is what we want to, we give emphasis on hearing about Krishna. Prabhupada's spiritual master also noted about Srila Prabhupada. He said he likes to hear, he does not go away. So Prabhupada talks about Paramahamsas. He said Paramahamsa means to realize Krishna is everything. Paramahamsas never attracted by hatha yoga or speculative knowledge. His only interest is devotional service. So Prithu Maharaj, text 13, he fixes his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna and he's completely situated on the Brahmabhuta platform, and in this way he gave up the material body. So he gave up the body. When he gave up his body, he was in sound mind and body. He wasn't suffering from any disease or anything. You know, nowadays, you know, people, they go to the hospital and they have all tubes and things. They try to keep you alive. But Prithu Maharaj, he was preparing himself to leave the body. And he did it by his own efforts. He gave up eating and sleeping. He gave up even drinking. He was just living on air. So in this way he was preparing himself. Prabhupada said, he writes, the yoga process practiced by Prithu Maharaj at the time of death accelerates the giving up of this body while one is in sound health, physically and mentally. Every devotee desires to give up the body while it is sound, physically and mentally. Is that right? Do you desire to give up the body? What happens, we often see, you go to the hospital, they put you in ICU, there's so many tubes, and they try to keep you alive. But here's Prithu Maharaj, he's accelerating giving up the body. And Prabhupada said every devotee desires, or they should desire, to give up the body while it is sound physically and mentally. And Prabhupada quotes Maharaj Kulashekar. The Kulashekar said, let me die now while I can still chant the holy name. The famous verse, Krishna Tvadiya Padapankacha Panjarantam Adhyaiva me Vishatu Manasaraja Hamsa Prana Prayana Kamaye Kapabata Pitaye Kantavaro Dhanavido Smaranam Kutaste. Right? Maharaj Kulashekhar's famous verse. This verse very famous in South India. South India, everyone knows this verse. Let me chant the holy name. Let me die now while I can still chant. If we wait for the time of death, your throat is choked up, you won't be able to chant. It will be too difficult. So Prabhupada, a perfect yogi can give up his body whenever he desires through the practice of yoga. So, we know we have to die. Better to die while you are in sound body and mind, rather than to die in some miserable, unconscious condition that's not very good. You want better to be conscious. We have devotees like that. There was the one devotee there in Vrindavan. He didn't want to die. He was suffering cancer and very painful, but he wouldn't take any anesthetic. He wanted to leave the body in full consciousness. Because in full consciousness, then the mind can be on Krishna. So Maharaj Prithu did that. He accelerated leaving the body. It's described here. He did the particular kind of yoga, blocked the door of the anus with his ankles, blocked the door of the anus, because if you don't do that, the soul may go out the anus. He pressed his right and left calves, raised the life air upwards, passing it on the circle of his navel, up to his heart and throat, and finally pushed it upwards to the central position between his two eyebrows. So Muktasana is the yoga process to give up the body. So you give it up quickly by your own free will. So although Maharaj Prithu stopped all practices of mystic yoga after becoming Krishna conscious, he took advantage of his previous practice of yoga and immediately placed himself on the Brahmabhuta platform in order to accelerate his return to Godhead. So, you have to, Prabhupada said, you have to come to the Brahmabhuta stage if we're going to go back home, back to Godhead. Of course, anybody who is Krishna conscious, they should be on the platform of Brahmabhuta. And we can return to Godhead. We don't need to practice this yoga asana. We just need to simply hear and chant. We need to, this is what Prabhupada was doing. Prabhupada said a Bhakti yogi is always on the Brahmabhuta stage. Bhakti yoga begins on the Brahmabhuta platform. Brahmabhuta prasanatma. For the yogis, though, they have to endeavor, so much trouble they have to take to come to the Brahmabhuta platform. We don't need to practice this kind of kundalini chakra. We don't need to do that. We just simply have to chant and hear about Krishna. And we can, immediately we can go to the spiritual world. So Maharaj Prithu here practiced this process. He did not want to wait for the time when his death would occur naturally. So he took advantage of the Sat Chakra penetration process, and he could give up his body according to his own free will and go back to Godhead. Yeah, he didn't want to wait till he died. He was going to die naturally. He arranged his own death. He arranged for his soul to go out of the body by yoga practice. He raised his life air up to the hole in his skull, and then he lost all desire for material existence. And he merged all the elements, the different elements, he merged them all back into the source of the different elements. So Prabhupada explains about the nature of the impersonalists if they try to liberate themselves from the material world. He said, if they don't have information of the spiritual world, then there's a 99.9% chance of falling down again into the material existence. Because the Jnanavadis and the Mayavadis, they say there's only the Brahman. They say there's no spiritual existence. There's no variety. There's only the light. There's only the oneness of the Brahman. No, they don't have information about the spiritual world. They don't have information about the Vaikuntha planets. Well, even if they have it, they don't accept it. Their meditation is just simply the Brahman, entering into the oneness of the Brahman. So this is the Mayavadi philosophy. They simply want to come into the oneness. So this, what happens, they achieve Sayuja Mukti, they enter into the Brahman, into that oneness. Can they stay there forever? What's going to happen, Giri Gopal Prabhu, when they go into the Brahmajyoti?
They will be there for a while, get frustrated, and then they want to get some kind of association, they fall back.
Yes, right. Why? Because they want association, right?
Yes, Jivatma is Sachit Ananda Vigraha. They want to have some association.
Yeah, they want some activity. They want some relationships. But in the Brahman, in the oneness, in that Sayuja Mukti, there's no variety. There's no relationships. There's only the oneness of the Brahman. So there's nothing, there's no pleasure there. There's no suffering, but there's no real pleasure there. And so after some time being there, they become bored because there's no activity, nothing going on, nothing happening. Right? We like activities, we like to see something going on, then we're happy. So they don't have that. They just have this oneness, entering into the light, merging in the light with the energy. But the nature of the soul is to enjoy a life of bliss. But there's no real bliss for them in the Brahman. The bliss is there in the planets. You have to go into the kingdom of God. You can't just be only in the light. You have to enter into the kingdom, into the Vaikuntha Lokas or Krishna Loka. And if we don't enter into these places, if you just remain in the Brahman, then after some time they come back to the material world to enjoy material activities. This is a problem. So we're given a detailed description about how Prithu Maharaj gave up the different elements of his body. Just as everything was created, the elements were all created, one after another, from subtle to gross. So in the same way, the material body at the time of death, you have to give up the elements. And the process is reversed. So from gross to subtle, the different elements are returned into the total elements. So Prithu Maharaj gave up everything. The mind, the senses, the sense objects, they all entered back. Even the material ego with the total material energy, Mahatattva, it was all put back into the material energy, into the Mahatattva. Mahatattva becomes unmanifested. Everything was given up. So to go through that process in this age of Kali is practically impossible. Unless somebody is very special in such meditation or yoga, the best way is to follow Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya teaches Sankirtan, glorifying the Lord by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. By chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, we're creating spiritual sound. In the material world, there's material sound. But in spiritual life, there is spiritual sound. So by chanting Hare Krishna, we create the spiritual sound, which brings people out from the material world. So Prithu Maharaj was released from all the different designations which keep us in the material world. Right? To get free of all different designations. Sarvupadi vinirmuktam. This pure devotional service means to give up all these upadis, designations, and then we become free by means of jnana and vairagya, which will give bhakti. Where there is gyan, good spiritual knowledge, and detachment from the material, there will be devotional service. So we cultivate this original consciousness of devotional service. So Prithu Maharaj gave up his body and prepared himself to go back to the spiritual world. So Prithu Maharaj is called Prabhu. Prabhu means, of course, master. It means master of the mind and senses. So one who is in control of his mind and senses, he is Prabhu. And sometimes they are called also Prabhupada. So Prithu Maharaj was also like Prabhupada. Yeah, Prabhupada states here, when one is completely self-realized and acts according to that position, then he can be called Prabhu. The spiritual master is sometimes addressed as Prabhupada, because he is a self-realized soul. And Prabhupada said the word pada means position. So Prabhupada means one whose position is at the feet, one whose position, it means a position of the Prabhu, or position of Krishna. So the devotee will act as a servant on behalf of Krishna. In this way he is a Prabhu. So Prithu Maharaj can be called Prabhupada, or as described here, he's just simply called Prabhu. So then another question comes up. It says, why did Prithu Maharaj have to follow the regulative principles in order to become a Prabhu? Because he's already a Shaktavesha avatar. So he shouldn't have to follow the regulative principles to become a Prabhu. But Prabhupada answers this question. He said, well, he appears on the earth as an ideal king. So it's the duty of the king to teach the citizens how to do devotional service. So by following all the principles of devotional service, Prithu Maharaj was teaching the other people. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us how to worship Krishna as a devotee. Lord Chaitanya taught people to do devotional service. And Lord Chaitanya did devotional service himself. So Prithu Maharaj was a Shaktavesha avatar, but still he behaved like a devotee to show the position of Prabhu, to show that he is actually a servant. So when a living entity gives up Maya, then we get the shelter of Krishna. So that is called Swarupa Sta. Swarupa Sta, or complete liberation. We understand our eternal relationship with Krishna. Alright, so this Prithu Maharaj, he's left the body, he's gone back to Godhead, gave up the body, and then Maitreya goes on to speak about Queen Archi, who is the wife of Prithu Maharaj. So Archi, she followed her husband into the forest because she was a queen. So her duty is to follow her husband, the king. She cannot imagine being without her husband, so she went with him to the forest. But her body was very frail, very delicate. She had to go and live in the forest. And usually her feet would not touch the ground. Her feet were never on the ground, but now she's in the forest, her feet have to touch the ground. So she's walking on the ground. Usually the queen, they would never even come out of the palace. They would just simply stay in the palaces. Hardly ever. They would come only for a very special big function, they will come out of the palace. So Archie, this wife of Prithu, she was very renounced. But she followed the husband and she walked on the ground through the forest. Just like Mother Sita followed Lord Ramachandra. When Lord Ramachandra went to the forest, Sita also went with him. Because she thought, I'm your wife, I should come with you. So, wives, the wives of great personalities, they were very chaste ladies. And they also show a great example for the women. Just like the men, Maharaj Prithu shows an example to the men, his queen shows an example to the women. How to be a chaste wife. That's important. That the woman wants to show the example, and the example of a chaste wife is to follow the husband in every stage of life. Right? It means when the husband is when he's a grihasta, the wife will be with him, the husband will be maintaining the family and so on. And when the husband takes vanaprast, then the wife will also follow the husband. She will also become a vanaprastha. And if the husband goes on and takes sannyas, then what should the wife do? Yeah, Vrindavan. If your husband takes sannyas, what are you going to do? Is Vrindavan Maharaji there?
No, Maharaj. I think she dropped off.
Oh, we left her. Okay, so who can tell me what would happen to the wife when the husband takes sannyas? What's she supposed to do?
Maharaj, she remains under the support of her son, if there is a son.
What if there's no son? Lord Chaitanya's wife had no son. Right? Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, there was no son. What did she do?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Maharaji.
Maharaji, she can stay with her in-laws, and she can do devotional services and preaching.
Yeah. She could do. Not every woman wants to do that, though. It's a rare woman. It's rare women who want to do that kind of thing, preaching. Yeah, it's possible, certainly. In ISKCON we do have quite a few women preachers. Yeah, they dedicate themselves. Even some women, they travel around and preaching, and they have their follow the people. They have their Shiksha disciples. Yeah, that's good. But what did Lord Chaitanya's wife do when Lord Chaitanya took sannyas?
She stayed home.
Huh?
Then she'll chant one round and take 1 grain of rice. This way she'll cook 1 handful of rice.
Yeah, as many rounds as she chanted, then she would eat that number of grains of rice. Yeah? So, in other words, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, he was renounced. So his wife also became renounced, Vishnu Priya. She also became very renounced. Nobody could ever see her face. She covered herself. Very chaste lady. She was a young woman. Lord Chaitanya took sannyas at the age of 24. And Vishnu Priya, how old was she?
16, Maharaj?
Yes, that's what I heard, 16. That she was only 16, a young girl of 16. And so, she's a widow. And she became very renounced. Well, previously she'd been a householder, but now she's a widow. Her husband's gone off taking sannyas. So she becomes a widow. And the widow, they will dress like, they wear white. They will wear very plain white cloth with no embroidery or anything. They will wear the cloth of a widow. If you see the widows in Vrindavan, they have that white cloth. And of course, even in Vrindavan, something you see the ladies, they'll cut their hair very short and shave their head or something. So they're very renounced, like that. So they can do like that. The man takes sannyas, the man goes off preaching, renounce. So the wife can also renounce. So this is a chaste wife. She follows the husband. As the husband progresses, she can follow her husband. When she was a queen, then she was sitting with the king in the throne. The king would sit on the throne and the queen would sit beside them. And then he goes to the forest. When the king goes to the forest, the queen also follows. The king is now doing austerity, tapasya, living in the forest. The queen will follow the husband. Because she has that mood. And we will see even what happens when the husband departs from the world, how the wife also follows the husband. So Queen Archie followed her husband, regulative principles, living in the forest like great sages. She lay on the ground. She also ate fruits and flowers and leaves. And so she was not used to these kind of things. She had never done like this before. So she became very weak and thin. But she got pleasure in following her husband, serving her husband. So by serving her husband, she did not feel any difficulties. So this is the Vedic culture. This is what family life, what married life means, like that. Married life is not eternal. right? People enter into Grihastha ashram. It's an ashram. They stay there for some time and then they move on into Vanaprastha. And then after Vanaprastha, then they can also go on to sannyas. And the wife will follow. Just like in our Krishna consciousness movement, we have a number of sannyasis that previously they were grihasthas. They had wives, they had children, the children have grown up, the children are independent, and the wife has no objection to the husband going. The woman is trained by her parents. And when she gets married, then she's with her husband. So the man and woman, if they're both devotees, then they dedicate themselves to a higher purpose in life. So the wife's duty is to keep her husband pleased in householder life. And she does the same thing when he's a vanaprastha. The wife will also follow. Sometimes the vanaprasthas, they would just go to holy places, so the wife will also follow. Even there's a stage of sannyas, where the wife will continue to cook. Right? Kuti chak, isn't it? The first stage, there's 4 stages of sannyas, kuti chak. They're a little away from home, so the family send food to the man every day, so that he can take some food. But when the husband takes sannyas, then the wife, it said here, the wife is to return home and become a saintly woman. And she should show an example for her children and her daughters-in-law. Of course, you may not have children and daughters-in-law. Like Vishnupriya. She was only 16, but she took the vow of austerity, and she's just chanting and eating that much rice every day. So that is austerity. So it says, although Queen Archie became very thin from living in the forest according to regulative principles, she was not unhappy, for she was enjoying the honor of serving her great husband. So, of course, we don't try to imitate this kind of behavior. But the principles are there, the principles are the same. Minimizing eating and sleeping and mating and defending. Minimizing these 4 basic principles of material life. Minimizing, controlling very strictly the eating and the sleeping. Prabhupada would chastise the devotees sometimes, especially the sannyasis, if they would sleep. He would tell them, he said, come on, you have to be like the Goswamis. And he quoted the Goswami Astikam, how they conquered over eating and sleeping. Nidrahara viharanad. Right, like that, it's mentioned in the Goswami Astikam, that the Goswamis conquered over eating and sleeping. They were always meek and humble, remembering the pastimes of the Lord. And so Prabhupada, when he first gave Satsvarupa and Hridayananda Maharaj sannyas, at that time he gave them the title Goswami. So they asked Prabhupada, what does it mean, Goswami? What is the meaning? Because you know, actually Tamal Krishna Goswami already had the name Goswami, but it was kind of new, and they asked Prabhupada, what does this name mean, Goswami? So Prabhupada said, you have to study the Goswami Astikam. He said, that is the meaning of Goswami. You can understand what Goswami means from the life of the Goswamis. Right? How they were always meek and humble, and they were always chanting the holy name, and bowing down in fixed measurement, and they were just like the ocean of love of God. So many different qualities are mentioned in the Goswami Astikam. But again, we cannot imitate these kind of things. It said that the Goswamis, they gave up nice clothes, and they accepted loincloths. So in this modern society, we don't encourage the sannyasis to wear loincloths. Right? Sannyasis, they have to be presentable. They have to go into the public forum and present the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they should be presentable. If they come in loincloths, dressed in rags, will not look very nice. What will people think? So, for the sake of public opinion, we have to dress properly. And we should be clean-shaven. Lord Chaitanya had Sanatana Goswami shave. When Sanatana Goswami came from Ramakela, he came to Benares, and he met Lord Chaitanya at Benares. But Sanatan was looking like a Muslim. He had not shaved, because he was working for the Mohammedan government, and he had a Mohammedan name, and he had grown the beard also. He had not been shaving like the Mohammedans do. So when he came there, Lord Chaitanya had sent one of his servants outside. He said, go and see who's outside, bring him in. And he went outside, and he came back and said, Lord Chaitanya, he said, there's only a Muslim mendicant there. And Lord Chaitanya said, yes, bring him in. And when they brought him in, of course, he bowed down. So then later on they understood this was going to be Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami had come there with his Muslim beard. And Lord Chaitanya told the devotee, he said, go take him and make him clean, shave him clean. Lord Chaitanya didn't like to see people with the beards and long hair so much. He wanted Sanatana Goswami to shave up. And so Prabhupada also, he liked devotees to be clean-shaven and to shave our heads. He said every few weeks we should shave our heads, keep our heads clean-shaven, to keep us in Krishna consciousness. So we have to be renounced, but at the same time our renunciation has to fit in with society. It has to be acceptable. If we're very thin and frail, that's also not very good. At the same time, you don't want to be fat. Right? If you're too fat, that's also not good. And Prabhupada didn't like to see devotee too fat, overweight. But we should be healthy. And we should be in good health in order to serve Krishna. Okay, is there any questions so far about this? Prithu Maharaj and his preparation for death, leaving the body, how he prepares himself to give up his body. Of course, we have hospice. We have our hospice in Vrindavan. People can come there They can give up their bodies there. But that's usually for people with some kind of health problem, that they need some kind of medical treatment, so they can go there. Here we have Prithu Maharaj. He's in sound physical and mental condition. He has no physical or mental problems, but he's preparing himself to give up the body because he could understand he was getting old and it was coming time for him to give up the body. So he prepared himself to go back to Godhead. So we have devotees do this kind of thing. We've seen some devotees also, how they go to Vrindavan and they prepare themselves to give up the body. They have constant kirtan. Gunagrahi Maharaj gave up his body like that. He was suffering some health problems, but he had a lot of kirtan. The devotees were going regularly and he was having kirtan, so much kirtan. Wonderful kirtans were going on. So devotees saw him preparing himself to depart from the world. It took some time, but eventually we all have to leave the body. Okay. So we'll take a break for 10 minutes then. Take a break for 10 minutes and we'll just come back and finish this chapter.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome back.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So we'll just continue here. We're hearing about Prithu Maharaj, and we heard how he departed from the world and how his queen followed him. So text 21 describes what happened after she saw her husband had left the body. So at first she was disturbed, she lamented, but then she got herself together and she arranged for a pyre on top of a hill. And somehow she was able to bring the body of her husband and place it on top of the pyre and set fire to it. I can't imagine how she did it, you know. Frail woman, we heard she was very frail and weak, and somehow, you know, the husband, he was a strong, healthy man, big man, powerful, and she's going to drag his body up and put it on a pyre, and she sets it afire. So she was not afraid of being alone in the forest. She had a duty to do, to take care, to arrange for the cremation of her husband's body. So there was no time for her to lament. So she brought the body up and put it on the fire, and she bathed in the river. Offered her obeisances to different demigods in the sky, different planets, circumambulated the fire, and then remembering the lotus feet of her husband, entered into the fire. So in this way she did sati. She gave up her body. Well, it's called sahagamana. Sahagamana, dying with the husband. So this system of sahagamana had been practiced in Vedic civilization from time immemorial. Of course, it's not practiced today, but Prabhupada said he'd seen it. He'd seen a woman, a very chaste woman, enter into the fire when her husband's body was being buried. He saw this one chaste woman, she gave up her body, entered into the fire, die with her husband. But it's important that the problem was, of course, that people used to force the girls to do this. The girls were not every woman was so chaste or so mentally strong that they could give up their body like that. But the family members would force them to do it. And that was why the government stopped it. Because it was becoming so, it was really degraded. The whole system had become degraded. The women were being forced to enter into the fire and give up their body. They didn't have that kind of culture. Not everyone had that kind of culture. But the family would do it because they didn't want to maintain the widow. They thought if the girl is here, if the woman is here, we'll have to maintain her. And they didn't want to be troubled with the maintenance of the widow. And so they preferred the woman to give up her body, to die with the man. So that's why the government banned it, because of the degradation in the practice. But there are still people, there are still some families, they have that, you know, they think like that if the husband dies, I will die, I should die also with my husband. Some women, they worship that sati, that right of giving up the body with the husband. Prabhupada said even after 1940, we knew of a chaste woman who died that way. So not long ago. So Archie, she's alone in the forest, and she arranged her husband's body to be burned, and then she herself entered into the fire. And so the wives of the demigods, they're watching, and they offered their prayers, and they were very satisfied to see the behavior of Archie, how she gave up her body and departed from this world. They showered flowers on the funeral pyre, and they began to talk among themselves. They were praising the woman, Archie. They praised her. All glories to Queen Archie. She's shown such the nice example, great example. King Prithu was the emperor of all kings, and she'd served her husband very nicely. And now she'd given up her body with her husband to go with him. So Prabhupada talks about chastity, chaste women. In the purport he talks about how Queen Rukmini, how she used to serve Krishna personally, although they had many hundreds of maidservants, but still Rukmini would like to personally serve Krishna. And similarly, the goddess of fortune in the Vaikuntha planets serves Lord Narayan personally, although there are many thousands of devotees there to serve. In the same way, the wives of the demigods serve the demigods. So Prabhupada said, we should understand the necessity for maintaining family life in human society, and should thus abolish this artificial law known as divorce. So this was Prabhupada's thinking about divorce anyway. He calls it an artificial law. The husband and wife should live in Krishna consciousness and follow in the footsteps of Lakshmi Narayan or Krishna Rukmini. In this way, peace and harmony can be possible within the world. Easier said than done, huh? Very difficult. Nowadays, everyone... Anyway, this was the Vedic culture. In the Vedic culture, there was no question of separation. So the wives of the demigods, they praise Archie, and they said, we can see her, we see her going upward. She's following her husband upward. Her husband was going to Vaikuntha, and the wife was going with him. Although their bodies were there on the pyre and they were burning, but their spiritual bodies were going upwards, going back to Godhead, going into the spiritual world. So Vaikuntha planets are there. Maharaj Prithu went there, and Archie also went there. Although they were separate, they got the same destination. So they were both pure devotees. And they were able to perform many inconceivable activities. Prabhupada said, ordinary men cannot even take up devotional service, and ordinary women cannot maintain vows of chastity and follow their husbands. A woman does not need to attain high qualification, but if she simply follows in the footsteps of her husband, who must be a devotee, then both husband and wife get liberation and are promoted to Vaikuntha. This is evinced by the inconceivable activities of Maharaj Prithu and his wife. So, women do not need to attain high qualifications. You see, one of the problems today is women are all very highly educated. You get a lot of women, they go to college, they do degrees, they go on postgraduate degrees, doctorates. Many women, they're highly educated. Prabhupada said, women don't need high qualifications. They just simply have to follow their husbands. But the husband must be a devotee. Nowadays we've got the whole world, the whole everything the wrong way around. Women all going to work and earning money, and the husband wants a wife who can earn money. The wife wants a husband who can earn. The husband wants a wife who can earn. Everyone's just thinking money, money, money. Nobody's thinking about self-realization. Nobody's thinking about what's the real goal of life. So this is the situation. So Maharaj Prithu and his wife, they showed wonderful example. So text 27 said, one who is a devotee, then they can get everything. Just simply by doing devotional service, then everything can be achieved. There's nothing lacking. And see, in this section we were hearing about the wives of the demigods. So they're repenting because they had the opportunity of a birth in the higher planetary systems. They would have a long life in the higher planets. And they had all kinds of material comforts. But they were not so fortunate as Maharaj Prithu and his wife. Because Maharaj Prithu and his wife, they went right past Brahmaloka. They went past all these higher planetary systems. They went into the spiritual sky. They went into Vaikuntha Loka. They got into the spiritual world. So that's much better than just being in the heavenly planets. Because in the heavenly planets, they still have to worry about old age and death. In Brahmaloka, it's a temporary place of misery. So the wives of the demigods, they were not very much appreciative of the other yoga systems, karma, jnana and yoga. They say these devotees, they've got it together, they get the real results. Any person who engages himself in performing activities that require a struggle and who get a human life, which is a chance for liberation, but they take so much trouble to do just to enjoy the material world, then they're cheated and they're envious of their own self. Material life, to enjoy material life, you have to work very hard. You have to pay the price. Prabhupada talks of material life, big factories, huge big cities, scientific discoveries. You have to spend so much time and so much money for all of these things. To get what? To get very little happiness. Just to have more sense gratification. They will study so many things, splitting the atom, doing scientific research. They will spend so much time and money and get so little pleasure. But if you take up Krishna consciousness and practice Bhakti Yoga, at the end of life you can give up the body, go back to Godhead. So the yogis, they want sense gratification. The devotee, he just simply wants service to Krishna. The jnanis, they're also interested in sense gratification. The jnanis, they want to become one. So it said, Bhakti, Mukti, Siddhikami, Sakale Ashanta, Krishna Bhakti Niskam, Sa Esha Shanta. If you have all material desires, Bhakti, or you want Mukti, liberation, Siddhi, you want yoga perfection, none of these people are peaceful. Only the devotee is peaceful by devotional service. Bhakti, Mukti, Siddhi, Kam, Sakale, Ashanta. Krishna Bhakti Niskam, Sa Esha Shanta. Only the devotees of Krishna are peaceful. They don't worry about sense gratification. They just simply want service to Krishna. They are satisfied in that. So the wives of the demigods, they say, people on this path of sense gratification, said they are cheated. They don't get real sense gratification. Material life, where is the sense gratification? Fill the belly, that's not... The pigs also fill the belly. They sleep more. The bears also sleep. It's just animal life. So we have to learn how to use the human body. Prabhupada talks, the body is like a boat, and the captain, the spiritual master, is there to guide us, to help us to cross the ocean. So people who are not devotees, we feel very sorry for them, that they have wasted their human life without Krishna consciousness. So while the wives of the demigods were all talking, Queen Archie reached the planet where her husband was going. They reached the spiritual world. They entered into the Vaikuntha planets. And Prabhupada explains in the spiritual world, in the Vaikuntha planets, there are husbands and wives. I was preaching to the one Buddhist monk, and he asked me, he said, in Krishna consciousness, he said, when you go back to Godhead, he said, are there men and women there? Are people husband and wife there? So here Prabhupada answers, he said, in Vaikuntha planets there are husbands and wives, but there is no question of their giving birth to children or having sex life. In the Vaikuntha planets, both husband and wife are extraordinarily beautiful and they are attracted to one another, but they do not enjoy sex. Indeed, they consider sex not to be very relishable, because both husband and wife are always absorbed in Krishna consciousness and in glorifying and chanting the glories of the Lord. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur has also said, Yedina grehe bhajana deke grehete golokabaya. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was in family life. He had a nice family, big family. But he was very Krishna conscious, and he considered his home. He said, when I'm worshipping my deity at home, my home becomes the spiritual world. Yedina grehe bhajana deke greheti goloka bhaya. Becomes like Goloka Vrindavan. That is Krishna consciousness, the spiritual world. Your home is the spiritual world. So husband and wife, they can live in Vaikuntha. You can be in the spirit, or Goloka. You just put the deity there and serve the deity. And this way you can conquer over material desires. Prabhupada said, this is a test of advancement in devotional service. One who is advanced in devotional service is never attracted by sense gratification like sex life. We become detached, we become attached to the service of Krishna. And he experiences living in the Vaikuntha planets, even in this life. The material world becomes a spiritual world. Okay, so Maitreya has finished his description about the pastimes of Prithu Maharaj. Now he goes on to describe about the benefits of hearing about Prithu Maharaj, all the benefits you get about hearing about Prithu Maharaj and telling other people about Prithu Maharaj. Is very powerful, very beneficial. Just by hearing about Prithu, describing about Prithu Maharaj with faith and determination, it said such a person also goes back home to the Vaikuntha planets. So just like Prithu Maharaj went back to Godhead, you can also go back to Godhead. Just by hearing and talking about Prithu Maharaj, it's as good as hearing and chanting about Vishnu. Glorifying the devotee is as good as glorifying Vishnu or Krishna. There is no duality between Vishnu and the Vaishnavas. This is called Advaya Gyan. A Vaishnava is as important as Vishnu. And so sometimes we glorify the Vaishnavas, sometimes we glorify Krishna or Vishnu. Prabhupada gives the example how Lord Chaitanya would chant the names of the gopis. But somebody became angry at Lord Chaitanya and tried to tell him, no, you should chant Krishna's name. And Lord Chaitanya became angry with that person. He was a student. And it ended up Lord Chaitanya took sannyas because he considered that these students are not taking me very seriously. Because Lord Chaitanya thought, I'm in Grihastha ashram. So I will take sannyas and then they will take me more seriously. So worship of the gopis or the devotees of Krishna is as good as devotional service rendered directly to Krishna. So Prithu Maharaj, if you worship Prithu Maharaj and hear and chant about Prithu Maharaj, you get a lot of benefit. It destroys sinful reactions. The benefits are described. It said, if you have no children, then you'll be blessed with many children. If somebody has no children, if they hear about Prithu Maharaj, they will be blessed with many children. And if someone is very poor, they're poverty-stricken, but if they hear about Prithu Maharaj with good respect, they will become the richest. They will become the richest, even without money. And so we're hearing many different benefits are given. Said that if you're going to fight a war and you read the pastimes of Prithu Maharaj 3 times, then when you go to war, you'll find the enemy all want to pay you taxes. They don't want the war. They will all surrender. And a literate person will become a scholar by hearing pastimes of Prithu Maharaj. It's so auspicious. It takes away all the bad luck. Right? If you're having bad luck, then just sit and read the pastimes of Prithu Maharaj and read them 3 times, and that way you get great spiritual benefit. But we should read ourselves, and we should get other people to read also. If you can bring other people to read about Krishna and to hear about Prithu Maharaj, then you get you get great benefit. Giving Krishna to others or giving Prithu Maharaj to others will give you the greatest benefit. You also go back home, back to Godhead. And Prabhupada says in the purport here, text number 38, one should not make distinction between the pastimes of Krishna and the activities of Prithu Maharaj. And whenever it is possible, a devotee should attempt to induce others to hear about Prithu Maharaj. So we don't just only want to hear about the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis. It's good to hear about Prithu Maharaj, the history of devotional service, very powerful to hear about this great personality, how he came and he re-established the religious principles after his father was such a demon, he had stopped everything. He came and re-established everything. So hearing about Prithu Maharaj can allow us to get the greatest benefit. You can cross over the ocean of material existence. All right, that's the end of the chapter. Are there any questions on this? Anyone?
Maharaj, Hare Krishna, I have a question.
Yes?
Maharaj, we know that the other Vedic texts are all about the aspects of, they focus more on dharma, artha, kama and moksha, although people tend to take the dharma, artha and kama aspect seriously and focus less on the moksha aspect or the liberation aspect. Now, so Vedas talk about, or the most of the Vedic texts, they talk a lot about sense gratificatory aspects or material aspects, material well-being. Whereas Bhagavatam is transcendental to all the other Vedas, right? And it's all about Bhakti, devotional service, and of course the glories of Krishna. So then if that is the case, why do we find that even in, like for example, in this pastime of Prithu Maharaj, as the benefit of hearing or reading Prithu Maharaj's pastimes, there is a focus on material well-being or material benedictions, like what we just saw right now, Maharaj?
Well, there's material benedictions, but there's also spiritual benedictions. It's not only material benediction. You have to understand that the Bhagavatam is being narrated for all kinds of people. And so those people who have material desires, they should also feel attracted and interested to hear about Prithu Maharaj. It's like to encourage them. But there's also, if you look, there's also a verse where he's talking about getting pure devotional service. It's not all just material desires, right?
Yeah.
Except the final verse, it said, will certainly increase unflinching faith and attraction for the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord's lotus feet are the boat by which one can cross the ocean of nescience. So that comes right at the end. You know, the different material benedictions are there offered. That's to bring people in who have the material desires. Sometimes these benefits are offered to encourage people, let them...
So sorry to interrupt, as devotees, obviously we don't want any of that, right? So does that also come as a byproduct and create some kind of bondage, or as long as our consciousness is clear in terms of what we are trying to achieve, we are spared that material benediction, Maharaj?
Well, it may come just like Sudama. Sudama was averse to material opulence and prosperity, so Krishna gave him a lot of it. You know, just to so that he'd no longer have any indifference to it.
Okay.
Lord Krishna decides these things for the devotee. And some devotees, they don't care. Like Kulaveka Sridhar, Lord Chaitanya asked, what do you want? No, I just want to continue as I'm doing. I'm happy. I don't want anything. So that mood is there. But, some other devotee, they have material desires. Dhruva Maharaj had material desire. But after he saw the Lord, then he regretted it. He didn't want it anymore. But he said, no, you came here in the beginning, you wanted it, now you've got it. You're going to take it. You have to go. You have to become the king.
Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, any other questions, anyone? Okay, so then we're finishing here today. This is the end of this unit.
If I may, Maharaj, just take a minute to thank you on behalf of all of us over here for giving us your invaluable association.